I'm Brendan Coogan, a freelance reporter, confirmed petrolhead, but now totally plugged into electric vehicle technology. I'm spending the day at DHL Express here in the southeast of London, and this is EV TV. Hello and welcome to EV TV, the series that tells you everything you need to know about electric vehicles and battery technology. Now it's predicted that electric vehicles will account for 55% of new car sales by 2040. And advanced research and development is also helping to power the exciting Formula E motorsport series.
Hello, I'm Adrien Dedieu from DHL EV team, experts in automobility and electric vehicle logistics. I will be your host for this second episode of EV TV. Whether you work in a battery or electric vehicle manufacturing company, a car dealership, or any business that's involved in the future of electric vehicles, this series is made for you. In this episode, we'll be looking at everything that's crucial to make the electric vehicle revolution happen. I'm talking about batteries, of course, their life cycle and their lifespan. Electric cars, they just make sense, right? I mean, no CO2 emissions while driving, close to no noise, fewer moving parts, and no need for dozens of traditional automotive components that will eventually fail and need to be replaced. So what's not to like about it, right? Well, there's one thing that consistently appears in all consumer surveys, and this is the battery life. In a recent study, 46% of potential future EV buyers were still mentioning they were frightened the battery wouldn't last for 100,000 kilometers. And that's only just 4 years of driving. Well, I can tell you, you already don't want to be replacing your battery after just 4 years, simply because those batteries cost about 10,000 euros per set, and this is excluding the cost of labor to get it replaced. So of course, battery life is one of the things that is preventing today electric vehicle to see the exponential growth we are expecting for them, right? So indeed, electric vehicle batteries will lose their ability to hold a full charge over time. But this is a gradual process, of course, and even though electric vehicles have been around for a while, we are still not seeing many of them heading to the junkyards because of their fully depleted batteries. So, the question is, how long should an EV battery last? This is a good question and obviously depends on the technologies, and the future holds a lot of great things for us because innovation is moving faster and faster. But what's the role of recycling? What's the role of reconditioning in order to get our battery life cycle longer? Well, we'll look into all those things in this episode. But first,
So, let's talk about the realities of EV battery life. The majority of manufacturers now offer more comprehensive battery warranties. Both Tesla and VW guarantee their batteries for 160,000 kilometres, around 100,000 miles, or 8 years at 70% capacity. And now Lexus has released a 1 million kilometre 10-year battery warranty for its first pure electric vehicle on sale in China, with selected European markets to follow soon. It's obvious that manufacturers wouldn't do this if they thought the batteries wouldn't last that long. It'd cost them an arm and a leg. We know that, contrary to popular belief, an EV that's a few years old will have almost the same range it had when new. Increasingly, recycling these batteries is becoming more commonplace and more economical too, with a growing second life market. To understand this properly, let's remind ourselves of what an EV battery is. First off, they're big and heavy, at least they are today. The most common EV batteries are made from lithium ion, cobalt and nickel, with fairly large anodes which contribute to their weight. We also know there are environmental issues surrounding the mining of elements like cobalt, which we briefly looked at in episode 1. But as we saw, things are changing. The GM joint venture with LG Chem called Ultium Cells promises a significant reduction in cobalt. And S-Volt, based in Jiangsu, China, are attempting to produce cobalt-free EV batteries with longer lifespans. The size and weight of EV batteries continues to reduce whilst the capacity is increasing. If the current battery size and weight could be reduced by 50% over the next 2 decades, manufacturers might, in theory, run vehicles with dual battery systems without damaging the electric motor performance. So let's take a look at the future of batteries in EV manufacture. I'm joined now by Catherine Can, co-founder of Rovilus. Catherine, thank you for joining us on EV TV.
Thank you, Brendan.
And I should at this point mention straight away, you're the co-host of Battery Revolution podcast on Clubhouse as well. So you should be the authority on most things EV and batteries.
Hopefully so.
As a consumer of EVs, there is a lot of anxiety both with range and battery life. How are things standing at the moment in your experience?
Right, thanks for that. So I think for EV users right now, with the increasing amount of charging stations being built around the world, range anxiety was an issue before. I think these issues would slowly decrease over time. Where I live currently here in Taipei, condos are talking about building infrastructure in their charging, charging infrastructure for the residents.
What's the state of play with fast charging? Because obviously we have slow trickle chargers at home and in residential buildings. Is there a great development in terms of fast charging so you can charge en route if you want to do a longer journey?
There are 2 schools of thoughts. There battery charging. There's also about battery swapping, and we see battery swapping a lot in this part of the world, and that allows the OEM, the car manufacturers, to actually own the battery. So that takes the cost off from the consumers as well. So that's in the consumer's interest. Yeah. So in the States and Europe, we see a lot of lithium-ion batteries. They are called nickel manganese cobalt batteries. And in China, we see a lot of lithium iron phosphate batteries. We call them LFP batteries. The batteries for NMC batteries, those with cobalt in them, they deliver higher energy density. They are able to charge faster. They have longer range, etc. But they heat up a lot faster as well, and that causes safety issues and also lifetime issues in terms of degradation of the whole battery in general. The other type of batteries that are currently used in China, they have lower energy density. They are not able to charge as fast, but they're a lot safer. And they're also a lot cheaper.
Lithium-ion batteries are doing a good job, and they're going to be around for a long time. So if people go out and buy a car with a lithium-ion battery, they're not going to have any issues for some time, are they?
Lithium-ion batteries could last us for a good 10 years in terms of EV usage. We do see a lot of new technologies coming up. The solid states, QuantumScape is very big on that, and also all the startups and researchers are looking at lithium sulfur, etc. The newer technologies like solid state, they may start to come up for mass production by 2025. The question is whether do they hit price parity? Does it make sense to transit from lithium-ion batteries, which are already cheap, to solid state batteries? And there's a lot of barriers to cross. They have to cross stability in their mass production. They have to be able to satisfy the cost aspect of it. And how do they reach that volume to be able to bring down the cost as well? Because ultimately, it is definitely absolutely correct to say that solid states are a lot better than what we have at the moment. They address all the issues that we face for lithium-ion batteries. But yeah, the average family, they just want a cheap car.
Sure. It comes down to cost, I suppose. So you've mentioned solid-state batteries. Just briefly, what are the advantages of those?
It is actually overcoming the technical difficulties of lithium-ion and one of the most important things, overheating. Also, in terms of the range anxiety and all that kind of stuff, it will no longer be a worry. So it is actually, I do believe that will be the technology that will take off from 2025 onwards.
A battery might be considered that it's at the end of its life in terms of an EV when it's gone down to something like 80% capacity. But that's still a good battery that has 80% and can be used for lots of different applications, surely.
Absolutely. So for EVs, the type of power that it has, with the remaining 80% capacity, it's no longer suitable, even though it's good for other applications. So the lower power applications like energy storage systems, it will be perfect for them to use for another good 5 to 6 years even. So if I could use a battery, a used battery that has already been exhausted in a passenger EV, and put it onto a second life use case for another 5 to 6 years as a manufacturer, it makes a lot of commercial sense to me. So I do think that will take on in the near future, and I do think that would drive recycling programs a lot faster.
Catherine, it's been a delight to talk to you. Thank you for joining us all the way from Taipei.
Thank you so much, Brendan.
In fact, in China, Tesla has already started recycling batteries. Materials used in Tesla lithium-ion batteries can be recycled. Tesla owners who participate in battery recycling can also replace new batteries at Tesla service centres to return the vehicles to their optimum performance. Now it's time for Did You Know? We've been talking about the lifespan of EV batteries, and I've come down to DHL Express because they're running a fleet of electric-powered vans for local deliveries, and I wanted to find out a little bit more about how practical it was. Gemma, thanks for joining us. You're one of the lucky drivers of this splendid vehicle. How is it for you?
So far I've been driving my vehicle for a month and it's been actually quite fantastic.
Ed, you're one of the drivers here at DHL Express. Thanks for joining us. How long have you been driving an EV?
I've been driving for about 2 years. A different way of driving, and yeah, it's been amazing.
What would you describe as the main differences between this and a conventional delivery van?
Well, this vehicle is actually automatic, so being automatic, it makes it a lot easier to get around. Not having to change gears regularly all the time is, it's very good for the knees.
So let's start day to day. You come into work, has the vehicle been charged for you?
It's my responsibility when I get back of an evening to make sure the vehicle is put on charge and is charging and ready for the next day of work.
Is it easy, the process of putting it onto charge?
Yeah, it is extremely easy. Once you know, you get shown once and then it's very easy, yes.
Are the charging points here on site?
Yes, we have 6 charging points outside. We have 6 vehicles, so everyone has their own charging point for their vehicle, yes.
Let's talk about range, because obviously one of the big things about driving and owning or running an EV is what they call range anxiety. Yes. Tell me about the range of this vehicle and does it do for you? Is it enough?
Well, the range is about 90 miles. There's not been one moment where I've been anxious about the electric one running out, and I do quite a lot of driving within the day as well.
You can drive in a way that can actually regenerate the battery. So if you go down slopes, if you allow it to just freewheel and everything, you can use the brakes as well, so you can get some of the range back.
In terms of, obviously we're in London, it's very dense, there's a lot of traffic pollution. You can find yourself standing in traffic with nothing running at all. You must feel quite pleased with yourself sometimes.
Oh yeah. You notice that, say a diesel vehicle coming, it's not polluting the air, as you know. Especially in London as well, the clean air being in London.
Okay.
It's quite satisfying to know that you're not contributing to that part of things.
We all know the challenges that are facing EV batteries. Driving range, battery cost, weight and recharging time. And we've made progress with all of those except one. Charging time remains a stubborn obstacle to the global adoption of EVs. Fully recharging the battery pack can take several hours. Even at a dedicated supercharging station, you can spend 40 minutes or more. Well, take a look at this.
From flat battery to full charge in just 5 minutes. Manufacturers are closer than ever to make this a reality. One of those is StoreDot, whose new technology could revolutionize the EV driving experience. They are taking existing lithium-ion battery technology and upgrading it for extreme fast charging by replacing the graphite components with silicone. So, full charging in a few minutes is soon to become a reality.
No, you weren't dreaming. A 5-minute charge giving a range of 300 miles. But before the 5-minute charge becomes a reality, the charging stations and infrastructure to supply them will also have to be upgraded. That's why BP, the oil company, is involved. BP currently has over 18,000 forecourts worldwide, and they know that 10 years from now, many of those are going to be obsolete. So they're undertaking a program to repurpose them. I'm sure other providers will follow suit soon. So, faster charging and more places to charge.
Okay, so it's time to hear about the DHL perspective on this matter. We've seen that Brendan did discover earlier on that DHL owns actually one of the biggest electric vehicle fleet in the world. So the group must have a lot of expertise in managing this fleet. And I'm sure that for DHL Fleet Manager, range of these vehicles is one of the main issues, right? So where do we stand today in terms of capabilities and where is technology taking us?
Well, if we look at EV batteries today, even from a logistics company perspective, you can get 300 kilometers from a single charge, which is already great. And we already see in passenger cars double those numbers. If we look at slightly forward, if we look at 2022, there's manufacturers saying that their new batteries will produce 900 kilometers of range. But that's only in the very short term. As the decade moves forward, we're already seeing developments in the likes of solid state or organic batteries, and they're expected to offer 1,500 to 1,700 kilometers on a single charge, which is going to far exceed internal combustion engine vehicles.
Okay, so what are the implications for logistics?
From logistics, there's going to be a number of different implications right across the business. But if we break it down into one, we talk about adaptable packaging. Packaging needs to be there in an adaptable form to prevent reinventing the wheel every time. Not just from a cost perspective, but from a sustainability angle, and also from a safety perspective. Compliance is non-negotiable in the movement and shipment of batteries. It has to be done in a correct manner. And we've talked before about how no one size fits all. And in packaging, it needs to be in a manner that is safe and compliant to ensure the transport.
Okay, then, so what are the advances that are being made in order to improve safety?
Well, battery packaging's already came a long way. Regulations determine a number of factors that have to be done. Heat diminishing products, safety within the batteries that enables that safe movement. No risk should come into that for anyone handling. It's a slight concern within the market that's saying we don't want to handle a damaged or a defective battery because of the perceived risk. If the correct packaging is used and it's handled in the correct manner, those risks are negated to that certain degree.
I think there's some specialist packaging from Germany that has been developed for this purpose, right?
Well, a German company called Gelco have developed specific packaging that has heat augmenting properties as mentioned, safety, it's got temperamental or environmental control of any impacts, and that exists in the market today. But there's lots of manufacturers coming in, not purely one, and that's going to only grow as the years come forward.
If something ever goes wrong, how can technology help us?
Well, through using Internet of Things technology, tracking can be put within the packaging to determine not only the location, but the status within that packaging. Whether there's an increase in heat range, whether there's going to be any issues on the gas composition changing. And through that Internet of Things, it will allow the logistics company to understand what the status of that battery is within transport.
We know there's something wrong before everybody else.
As a logistics company, we should.
Thank you very much again, to be very insightful.
Thank you very much, Adrian.
Well, we've packed quite a lot into this episode, right? We've discovered that battery lifespan can go way beyond 100,000 kilometers. We've even discovered one from Lexus in China that's 1 million kilometers.
We've checked out battery lifespan, life cycle, and witnessed some incredible news about recharging speeds. And we've spent some time with EV drivers on the front line.
And we looked into the range of batteries, how today's best batteries have a range of about 600 to 700 kilometers, and this is expected to improve to 1500 to 2000 kilometers in the near future with solid-state and organic battery technologies.
So what can we look forward to in the next episode?
Well, tune into episode 3 to find out, on all usual channels soon.